The Purple Line is a community podcast bringing you in-depth conversations with diverse leaders in the public and private sectors. Whether you're a student looking to gather advice or a professional tuning in for valuable resources, our dynamic programming provides tips for all ages and backgrounds. And this is The Purple Line.
Thanks for joining the CHLI Purple Line podcast. Today, we have a very special episode as we feature our outgoing host, Keith Fernandez. Thank you for your dedication to CHLI, Keith.
Emily, thank you so much. It's so great to be here. So great to be chatting with you, and I'm so eternally grateful to CHLI, from the internship I got when I was 19 to the Alumni Association, which I'm proud to lead, but I'm outgoing of that pretty soon too in a few months. CHLI has been a life changer for me, and it's great to be here with you and wonderful to be having a great conversation over coffee.
So let's start with your background, Keith. Where are you from? What's your family story?
Absolutely. I'm Reformed Miamian, and Cuban American grandparents. They fled communism, and what that did is inculcate in me a sense of the importance of participation civically. So whether that's through CHLI, whether that's through voting, in a previous life I worked for our current chairman, Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. It was really, really important to me to get involved in civic organizations because I know how important it is to be a part of the community and be a part of the fabric of your community. So that's where I'm from, a little bit about who I am, but still hope to be a really big part of whatever comes next.
That was beautiful. Remind me, Keith, when did you go through the CHLI program?
Yeah, it's a Cretaceous period really for a lot of folks listening, but 2006 I was a Ford Motor Company CHLI congressional intern. I worked with then Senator Mel Martinez, so I know I'm really dating myself, but it was a really, really important program. Back then it was only a summer program, so you'd come to DC for 6 weeks, you'd work in the Senate or the House, and you'd go home. So there was no corporate part of it, there was no Alumni Association, certainly. I think I was a second or third class, so we were the alumni. And it was really, really life-changing for me. I know from Miami, seersucker is not a thing. I came to D.C., I saw these really ugly things, or blue and white stripes, and I said, who would wear this? Now I love it. So, old dogs can learn new tricks. But I really loved every part of it, and it opened the world of possibilities to me. CHLI showed me the diversity of perspectives, diversity of experience, even within the Hispanic community, and really the ability of CHLI to spark the desire for improvement, whether it's self-improvement, improvement in your community, educational improvement, or professional improvement, has been key to my life, and I know the life of so many others.
And so after CHLI, walk us through what it was like to go from there to eventually working for our current chairwoman, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen.
Yes, so my work with Ileana actually predates CHLI. I was really, really popular in high school, so at 15 I showed up at her office to intern, so as every popular kid does. And you will be shocked I did not win prom king, by the way. And I knew there was something that I wanted to do to serve my community. And, at 15, with a Hispanic dad, you got to work. So it was either bagging groceries at Publix, which is a supermarket chain in Florida and throughout the Southeast, or it was going to work in Congress, which is my preferred thing to do. No diss on bagging groceries at Publix. I would have done that too. But I really wanted to make a difference. And so I started interning locally. Obviously, I was still in high school. And then I learned about this opportunity through her office. She was a board member at the time. Obviously, she's the chairwoman now. And I thought it was just really, really important to do that. And then when I came to DC, I learned a lot about that. I ended up becoming her body man when I was 21 for the 2008 campaign. And for folks listening and don't know what a body man is the person who's with the person all the time. So, I carried the business cards and the pens and, the pieces of paper, the speeches and all that. And I drove her around. And so I got to do all that when I was in college. It was really, really important. I loved it too. Then I went to law school. I thought I was done, but no, they're never done with you. So when I was finishing law school at my bar swearing in. We chatted about an open job she had, and she said, well, okay, let's do it. So I became her communications director and counsel, so her lawyer for 5 years. And so it's been a wonderful career with her. It was obviously really, really impactful. We used to talk about really serious issues, and now we send each other jokes and memes via text message. So, the relationship is strong as ever, but has just changed slightly.
Just slightly
Just
there.
slightly.
So obviously Chile has had a great impact on your life, and you're the president of the Alumni Association, you've been the host of this podcast. What has it meant to you to host this podcast for the group that brought you to DC and provided you with this opportunity to succeed in this city?
Yeah, great question. I think it's an extension of the opportunities Chile provides us all, which is, opening us up to new experiences, new perspectives, and exposing us to folks who we otherwise would have no way of getting to know. I mean, talking to Rafael Bernal from The Hill, he's a big deal correspondent, talking to our Chairman Emeritus, Lincoln Diaz-Balart, talking to so many others who are really interesting people. And I think that's what Chile does best. It brings interesting, impactful people into a room, and we're able to have discussions and conversations that are serious, but not, too serious. And we're able to really open the doors to possibilities for folks who, I went to Coral Terrace Elementary School. I did not think I would be in a room here with you, but look at the lighting. It's really nice. I did not think I would be in this kind of a situation ever when I was a kid. It was so far removed from the circumstances of the way I grew up. No one knew anyone in politics. No one knew anyone who could, help you out. So really, it's meant so much to me because it's opened the world of possibilities.
So did it help you build a network to succeed here in the city?
Oh, it absolutely did. And it was a great informal network, too, because it wasn't tied to any one job. I think a lot of times, people are afraid to ask folks at work or even, socially, for help or advice because you might be seen as not knowing what you're doing, or you might be seen as, not being savvy enough. And, what Chile did was it gave me, and I hope, or at least I hope a lot of others, a permission structure in which to be curious and to ask questions and, to be okay with not knowing everything. I definitely still don't know everything, so I'm still working on that. But I think it's really crucial when you are informally making your way, and I mean still currently making my way, to have that structure where you can pick up the phone, call somebody and say, hey, I've got this problem. Here's what I think the solution is, but I need a gut check, and not worry about any sort of professional repercussions, personal repercussions, all that. So it's really been a lifesaver for me, and I know for so many others.
A true support network.
Yes, absolutely.
So I want to transition to talk a little bit about the great people that you've been able to interview, like you just mentioned. What was it like interviewing the great statesman that is our Chairman Emeritus, Lincoln Diaz-Balart?
Oh my gosh! Well, interviewing Chairman Emeritus Diaz-Balart was amazing, and I had known him for a while, obviously from Miami because of my campaign work, and obviously, Ileana calls him her legislative brother, and really he is a force of nature, and he's such a principled guy. You talk about someone who passed legislation with meaning. He passed NACARA, to help, Nicaraguans and Central Americans get status. And, he did so in an interesting way. He was able to insert it into a DC appropriations bill. So, when folks talk about legislative maneuvering and, kind of how that's a bad thing, sometimes it's a good thing because otherwise there were thousands of people who would not have status if not for Lincoln Diaz-Balart. You talk about Cuba and talk about, fighting for human rights. I mean, he was a driving force behind legislation that really enshrined in U.S. law the importance of fighting for human rights in Cuba and around the world. Lincoln has done so much for the South Florida community, and he always represented South Florida honorably. He always represented and founded Chile honorably. He's got a great vision, and he had this vision for people like me. I did not know I needed Chile, but Lincoln knew I needed Chile. And it's been 20 years, soon to be more, and hopefully 20, 40, and 60 more years of helping folks because of Lincoln's vision. So, I always say, Lincoln, we're here because of you, but I really mean it because that's what happened.
It's beautiful. You also had the opportunity to interview your former boss and our current CHLI Chairwoman, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, which that must have just been such a special moment. I mean, can you share what that was like?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so special. We did it at my apartment because we didn't even have a studio for the podcast. So it was special, and then we ended up ordering Chinese food. So here we are. It was great, and like I said, I've known Ileana for more than 20 years, and it was just wonderful to hear her talk about how she worked in Congress, bipartisanship, and really leaning into the fact that we all have more in common than we think. And, just because you believe something else, different from me politically, just because you have a different life experience doesn't mean we can't work together for the common good. And whether the common good is a piece of legislation, whether the common good is a business venture, or whether the common good is civic engagement, just like CHLI, we should not let differences be a blocker to success. And, having that really, really important frame of reference was great. And then, of course, we talked about Miami and all that. So, of course, it was a wonderful conversation. And I am blessed and lucky to have her in my life almost every day. And I'm blessed and lucky to have Lincoln in my life. And just like you, too, I am blessed to have you in my life.
Well, you're too kind. I also wanted to ask you about a prescient interview that you did last year with Dina Siegel-Van about the need to combat anti-Semitism. In the light of the current environment with anti-Semitism on the rise across the country, what lessons learned in that interview would you like to amplify?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I wish you wouldn't have had to have that interview because, it would have been, it's sad that this is even a problem, and it's sad that hate across the country is a problem. And, you see it in anti-Semitism, you see it, with other groups across the country. And, the lessons learned, I think, are no one should be discriminated on based on an immutable characteristic. Discrimination is always wrong. And I think one of the issues that we're seeing is it requires a lot of education. And whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's other forms of discrimination, there are a lot of issues that I think folks thought, well, this is not solved, but, we've already had the debate and, we've come out on the side of non-discrimination. And it's just really, really saddening to see how folks are getting discriminated against, whether it's the Jewish community, whether it's other communities. It's sad, and it's sad that we even had to have that discussion because that means there's a problem to discuss.
Agreed. So I want to transition to talking about the CHLI Fellowship that you are creating that's, to empower Hispanic college graduates to bring their perspectives to Capitol Hill. Can you just give us some details about how you're building this fellowship program and what its potential impact may be?
Yeah, I'm so excited. So first of all, I was really lucky that CHLI supported me in applying to the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program, and that's a program that's sponsored by both Bush Libraries, so 41 and 43, Clinton and the Johnson Library, and it's a professional development program for mid-career leaders, like I said, Cretaceous period, so definitely mid-career. And it really is something that I was passionate about as Alumni Association president and just as an alumnus generally, because I think CHLI's promise has always been, helping folks open doors to their career, and that's been achieved a lot of ways by the global leaders, by the law fellows, by so many programs that CHLI does, programs including, folks working in the office. But getting back to DC has always been a bit of a financial hurdle. And I think, I was really lucky because I was able to work for Ileana from Miami. So my experience working in Congress actually was no financial hurdle whatsoever when it came to living at the place I always lived. Had I had to move to DC, I probably would have had a lot of expenses that I could not afford. So I would have had to take on credit card debt. I would have had to take out a loan. Who would have given me a loan at 24? I don't know, but maybe somebody. And I always thought that was a problem that we were uniquely positioned to solve. And so this fellowship, and hopefully it will grow and expand over time, is designed to, first of all, ensure that no one goes into debt who is otherwise qualified to be in DC and work in these jobs, in getting to DC. So including housing, including some sort of stipend, including, sort of MetroCard, that sort of situation. It's designed to ensure that also the degradation of connections. So, DC is a transitory city, and folks leave, folks change jobs, even if you're an all-star intern, folks sort of forget sometimes. So it's designed to be a bulwark against the degradation of connections. So you're able to have a placement, so you can go, you can make your own sort of, place in the world as a fellow, and then grow and then launch your career, whether that's in public service in Congress, in the administration, or something else. Working for CHLI is a public service too. Or, going into maybe corporate America or some sort of private sector role later on in your career and taking those lessons you learned and giving back to the community. So there are a variety of ways to serve. I am cribbing that from my interview with Lincoln. But it's really impactful for me. I'm really proud. I'm really thankful to our president and CEO, Marianne Gomez-Orta, because when I applied to PLS, I called her and I said, hey, I've got this crazy idea. I don't even know if they'll pick me, but if they do, do you want to do this? And she said, oh my God, we should do this. Absolutely. So she's been a full-throated supporter, and so I am so grateful to her.
So what was it like to announce that fellowship at this year's Gala and Leadership Awards?
I'm always shocked anyone puts me on stage or in front of a microphone. So first of all, it was a bit surreal. But I was really happy in that moment to do so because it meant that it was a reality. And I hope what it really means is that announcement makes it a reality for dozens and, over the next, hopefully decades, hundreds of people. And really making it real was a pinch me moment. But it was also a reminder of the obligation that, we all have, especially me, to continue giving back no matter what role one has. So, whether that's mentoring folks, whether that's, donating to CHLI. CHLI has given us all so much, not even to take into account the cost of the internships, but they've given us so much, and we all have an obligation to give back in our own way. So, I know I've done, more than the average bear for CHLI, but that doesn't mean that folks' contributions can't be significant. So whether that's donating $25 a month to CHLI, whether that's volunteering your time to mentor, whether that's being part of the Alumni Association and its board, everyone has a role to play. We should play it. We are all deeply in debt to CHLI, and so it is just my little granito de arena that I am putting in.
Well, you are an incredible ambassador for CHLI. So thank you for all of your dedication, especially as president of the Alumni Association. What has it been like to go from being one of those initial classes, with your cohort, to now suddenly leading the group of all the alumni?
I am honored people trusted me with this role. I really was excited to start really leading the Alumni Association almost 4 years ago now, because there was a need for us to grow and to respond to the current needs of CHLI alumni. So whether it's the Wendy Martinez Scholarship Program, and her family is such an inspiration. Cora Martinez, her mom, is an incredible part of the CHLI family, and she's an honorary member of the Alumni Association, as is Wendy's brother. Whether it was mentoring, formally or informally, or whether it was launching a South Florida chapter. There was a lot of things to do, but, I didn't do it alone. The president always gets credit and the blame when things go wrong. But I've got a great board, Lizzie Dos Santos, the vice president, Sarah Garcia, Angel Soto, and so many others. And I really think that it's a team effort. And if there is one lesson that I can give from being the president of the Alumni Association, is that anybody can do what they can do and do it well. So, whether that's, for example, like Leo Velasquez on the board is, refining the mentorship program. Like, that's amazing. He works at Indeed. He knows what he's doing in a way that I do not, for example. So it is really helpful. I encourage folks to run for the Alumni Association board or, get involved otherwise. But it's been a really great time, and I'm so thrilled that we're establishing the foundation for success for, new leadership and new generations.
I want to pick up on the fact that you shared a valuable lesson learned. What valuable lesson did you learn through hosting this podcast and that was of significant impact on your career or your personal growth?
I think be curious. I think the fact that sadly, a lot of folks have sort of customized and curated their information streams. So, when you talk about customization in life, it's really great if you're, picking up a pizza or a burrito, you get it just how you want. But, when you talk about customization of information, I think, if you customize it the right way, meaning a diverse source of information, that's great. But being curious about people's life experiences, point of view, and doing so and asking, well-founded, smart questions is a really, really important, not just way to host a podcast, but like a way to live. There are billions of people on this planet who have different life experiences, and I'm not saying folks should agree on everything. It's healthy debate is very healthy, actually. But the fact that you can ask a question, be curious, and then come away knowing something you didn't know before, to me, is the biggest life lesson that I learned. I think I already knew it to some level, but it just reinforced my thinking. And, you'll see throughout the podcast, and I know you're going to have even better guests on, Republicans, Democrats, independents, people who were born in the U.S., people who weren't born in the U.S., people who immigrated. Gosh, it's a big world. We should be curious and we should learn.
And I'm excited.
Yes.
And on that, what are some key leadership principles that have guided you through this podcast that I should try and pick up along the way?
Oh, God, you're already doing better than me. You don't rely on verbal crutches so I think you're pretty good there. But I think the best leadership principle, besides be curious, which I already covered, is have an open mind. And also, I think, know what you want to ask. So, answers are dependent on questions. And so knowing how to structure a question, in life too, by the way, for example, would you like coffee? Well, yes, but that's not the specific kind of coffee, so the answer is yes, but maybe not the kind of thing you want. But knowing how to structure a question to get the answer that you need and the information you need is a really, really key skill. And I think being willing to dig deeper. Sometimes going off script is not a bad thing. So digging deeper, and I think finally just knowing who you are. This is not a podcast related thing, but making sure that you are clear on who you are, what your principles are, and also being willing to re-examine and reevaluate based on new information. So all those things I think were really, really key to me hosting the podcast and having a sense of fun and rolling with the punches. So it was really great. I loved it. And so, now that I'm old news, I can't wait for the new news, which is you. And it's going to be amazing. And I can't wait to start streaming you on my runs.
Oh, goodness. So are there any other key pieces of advice or insights you want to share, especially with our current fellows and interns and people just involved in the CHLI universe?
Yeah, I think one thing that I have shared with a lot of global leaders when we, chat one-on-one or as a group is when I was a global leader, I thought that there was, or I guess I wasn't because I was a congressional intern, because global leader is a newfangled thing for me at least. But when I was 19, 20, I always thought somebody out there had this like magic formula and knew more than I did. And I don't know if it was based on age or if it was based on whatnot, but I always thought that there was some sort of secret that older people had. And when you're 19, everyone's older. So to how they were living their life and how they were successful. And the longer I have been alive, which hopefully is a long time more after this, I have learned that that is not true. That people live their lives and, there is that old axiom, they make it up as they go along, but you should make your own choices and you should make it up as you go along in a way that suits you. My family had no background in politics, and I went to go intern for Ileana. We don't have any lawyers in my family. That's usually a good thing besides me. And I went to law school. And, the corporate America stuff that, I've transitioned to in the past, 6 years of my career, like that also, there was no family history of that. I make all these sound like medical conditions. But, I think that the fact that folks maybe living their life in a different way than you doesn't mean that you should not live your life in a way that is authentic to you, whether that's professionally, personally, and ensuring that you are comfortable with the decisions you're making is really important. And even if everyone is telling you it's a wrong decision, it actually still might be a right decision professionally for you because they just don't have the frame of reference that you do. So I would say be confident in yourself, believe in yourself, get all the information you need, don't make rash decisions, but it's okay to be bold because being bold is what really makes an impact. And nobody talks about kind of like that middling middle. So go for what you want, know what you want, and get it quickly.
It's okay to be bold. I like that.
I like it.
Let's end on that note. That was perfect. So thank you so much for your time, Keith.
Emily, this is great. I can't wait to hear who you're going to have, and I'm ready to mash that like button. So let me know when the next one's out.
Will do.
All right. Amazing. Well, thank you all, and thank you to CHLI.
No, thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening to The Purple Line, and make sure to follow CHLI across all social media platforms at the CHLI for the latest updates.